Hello racers, welcome. Today we have a special guest, Oriol Murata. And today we're going to bring you an amazing video about bicycles. They're often called vintage, the trendy term, but these bicycles are truly historic. Vintage, classy, and classic. And Oriol, who is an expert, besides being someone who has contributed some of the pieces to the collection, he's going to give us a full explanation of things that I'm sure will surprise many of you, and if you already knew them, they'll fill you with nostalgia. Let's go. Come on, will you come with me?
Here we have a bike that's very hard to find. A Gary Fisher from 1987. We're talking about the early days of the sport, when there wasn't yet an industry to supply bike parts. In that situation, the people who started this in the United States were craftsmen. They welded the frames themselves. Mr. Gary Fisher was a craftsman. He built his own bikes. He looked for parts here and there, and they were the first ones who started searching for suppliers all over the world to get mountain bike groups. They even had the challenge of going, for example, to Japan and convincing the people at Shimano that it was a good idea to make mountain bike groups because they were creating a new sport and that there would be a market for it. This bike really is very historic. It's 31 years old. It's pretty crazy. For example, the brake levers are practically motorcycle levers because they were using a lot of parts from the auxiliary industry with some thumb time shifters. Something really very archaic, but it already defined that it was a bike completely different from a road bike and something that has been built upon. Everything after that, yes, a really good piece. Here's one of the first best-selling bikes on the market, a specialized Stumpjumper. This is a bike that we can say popularized mountain biking among the masses. The purchase price in the United States was very good. It was already a more industrial production, so waiting times were shorter. And this is the bike that put Specialized at the top and gave them a bit of an advantage and also presence as the great brand they are now. It's a very good bike, very well built, very solid. The name remains in the catalog even after 30 years. Because it has all the meaning of what a good mountain bike should be. For example, here is a Klein Attitude with an MC, two-stem. This isn't such an old bike. It's from the last year that Klein operated independently. After that, it was absorbed by the Trek brand. And then the romanticism of the bikes and the super high quality was lost a bit because they made it a more commercial brand. How can you tell if a Klein, for example, a lot of people say, I don't know if the Klein is what they call pre-Trek or post-Trek. There are several things to look for. For example, the seat clamp has to be welded, not a classic collar clamp. The distinctive central mount for the cantilever brakes was lost in 1994. The bottom bracket, if you look here, uses press-fit bearings, not threads, just like the headset. This bike is not so old anymore, as evidenced by the dropouts. They're also rear entry, but smaller. The iconic Klein dropout didn't come until 93, which is bigger. Here we see a really cool part, the Tioga disc drive, which is a true icon of mountain biking. Longtime fans have seen this trend before, such as with John Tomac, who popularized it. It has a unique sound and construction. Unlike regular wheels, it doesn't have spokes. It's a solid wheel. That the load is geodesic. It's a Kevlar thread that moves from the hub, goes around, and is screwed to the rim. So it behaves in a very elastic and very absorbent way. There's nothing inside, just two plastic sheets with a small thread. Even though it may seem hard to believe, this has enough strength to support the weight of the cyclist. Of course, if this wheel took a hit or any small impact, it would break and be impossible to repair. So it's something really fun if you're lucky enough to have one, because it's all or nothing. While it works well, it goes really well, but if you have a problem, it's straight to the trash. So it's a legendary piece. Finding one of these nowadays in this condition is really difficult because most units are destroyed. Another legendary American brand, Yeti cycles, something truly amazing. This is a brand that back in the day always based its advertising on never having made any advertisements. All the advertising was done through competition. They had the top team and riders, and in the golden age of mountain biking, all the good American riders at some point rode and raced with jet bikes. The colors, the The uniqueness of this bike is that it's a very small brand with very limited production, and it has great value. This bike is assembled with absolute attention to detail. It's not a mass-produced bike. In fact, Yeti offered frames and users would assemble them as they saw fit. The legendary Coupe Bruce cranks for Ringgold seat posts and stems are among the 5 or 6 top-quality American artisan brands with which you could build a unique bike right down to the stem. Richie, the transparent grip shift, before belonging to the SRAM group, was basically a small brand with a single product. Did they have this, the twist shifter? This is the X-ray version, the X-ray one, with which you could see the inside of the mechanism, which was really cool. The problem with these shifters was that the plastic was a bit brittle, and it's hard for them to have made it to today without cracks. But anyway, it was really cool to see how the springs and the cable worked inside the system. This is a very beautiful bike, very iconic and with a lot of style. A Canon from the other legendary American brand with a great and rich history. This is also a very old bike, a bike from 1989, before the big productions. You can clearly see how the geometry of the bike is a little bit strange, besides the fact that it's a very large size. They were using parts that weren't specifically designed for mountain bikes, like a saddle that looks like it's for a city bike. Some brakes taken from city bikes, double rise handlebars. They weren't well defined yet. The geometry standards. Each manufacturer did things slightly differently, using part or the contacts they had to assemble the bikes. This bike from '89 marks a boundary in bike design. Before, it was a bigger diaspora, and 2 or 3 years later, everything became more standardized with geometries, more focused on competition. For example, if you come with me, just 2 years later, the Canon was producing bikes similar to modern geometries, keeping the overall design largely unchanged. 72-degree seat tubes, standard headsets, flat handlebars, something different. So, Shimano already offered complete group sets, such as Deore, X and XT. So it was easier to build bikes without problems. You'd put on a Shimano group, good rims, good tires, everything was easier. This bike is very interesting. I was excited to see it. It's the first bike I had when I was a kid, and it had a very curious detail, which is this thing you see here. For example, for me when I was a kid. It took me 2 years to learn that this was a stain because I had always seen it, but I didn't know exactly what it was for. And since I had never had a flat tire, I didn't need it. And one day when I did, my father told me to use the bike patch. I asked if it had a patch. They said no, but pointed out that there was one. He removed the screw, revealing a patch that had always been there, unbeknownst to me. It's something really curious, isn't it? To have inserted the stain in the dick. This dick is from a defunct American brand called Odyssey, a brand that used to make really cool stuff. Unfortunately, they no longer operate in the market.
What else do we have? Let's see, what do we have left? Because I'm already speechless.
The legendary Manitou, which is the idea of someone who makes good forks and suddenly says, I'm going to make a good frame. What do I do? Well, I'll take a fork and put it on the back. It seems like a strange idea, and really, from a Lama market perspective, it wasn't a very good idea because it was the beginning of the company's technical bankruptcy. These bikes, they are really well built. If you look at all the machining, this is all aluminum, 7000 series. It's a very hard aluminum, difficult to work with, but it allows you to do things that really push the limits. This bike is a gem in itself, but it's a very fragile bike. It's very hard to find one in this condition, which is flawless, has no cracks, and is usable. The usual thing with the current state of these bikes is to find them not just with one crack, but with 5, 6, or even 10. Honestly, these bikes used to break everywhere, not because they lacked quality, but quite the opposite. The aluminum was too good, let's say, too tough, and it's definitely excellent for machining parts, but not for building bikes. This is one of the final handmade production bikes in the United States. A year or two after this brand made these bikes, nearly all production had shifted to Taiwan. This bike has been well utilized. The blue tones of the fork to make a super tuning with blue cranks, Kuka, Abidon, Ringgold, something really cool. This bike is perfect. It's well balanced and really cool from every angle. A bike with a lot of history, a bike that is surely the star of all the ones here. Because with bikes, besides their age and the history they have is also important. I'm not sure if any of these previous bikes have a great story, but this one does. This bike was a world champion with the late, unfortunately, Iñaki Lejarreta. Thanks to the family for lending the bike for this exhibition. And probably, without a doubt, this is the most valuable bike. It's the most valuable piece in the collection, both sentimentally and economically. If you can tell a genuine and meaningful story about any antique object, whether it's a bike, a motorcycle, or any collectible, then it's on another level. It's amazing to be here and to be able to see this. A bicycle that has been in a world championship has crossed the finish line and has helped a rider become world champion. That has an intrinsic value that can't be paid for with money. So this is a super special bike, a competition bike in its original condition. That's right, this bike was used for training, for competing, and it's something really very special. Here we have, for example, the legendary brand Ritchie, a case very similar to Gary Fisher, Tom Ritchie. Another craftsman, a good welder, working on the tubes, buying tubing, going everywhere to get the components. He also created a racing team where the most legendary riders competed, Thomas Frisnitz. For example, to all the kids from the year 92. At the Linas del Valles World Cup, part of the World Championship, Thomas Frisnitz won using a Ligia similar to this one. Ritchie dolls were in high demand, but their high price made them unaffordable for many. This one really has all the perfect elements. Ritchie also made components like stems, headsets, forks, and cranks. He was one of the first craftsmen to shift his business toward technical components. 3 years after that year, he stopped making bicycles and focused on components. And nowadays, we all know the quality of the products like pedals, stems, handlebars, and they're everywhere. A good story of a craftsman who becomes an entrepreneur and is very successful. Now we come to a hot part of the exhibition. Personally, these are the videos I like the most. These aren't mine personally, but from a friend. I have similar ones in my collection too. They're the legendary ones. Klein, this story is different. Here, we're no longer talking about a craftsman. We're talking about an aeronautical engineer. A person named Mr. Gary Klein, who, when he designed the brand, was working at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So we're not talking about someone who came directly from competition, but rather someone who applied the best technical solutions of the time to make a bike. Here the motto was, let's make something unbeatable, and he really achieved it. All the aluminum treatment, the type of aerospace tubing. This entire bike has solutions that had never been seen before, and that took bikes to another level. It was the first bike with internally routed cables, which were not on the outside but inside the frame. The integrated headset has a bearing visible under the plastic cover. It's integrated into the headset. There are no threads or anything here. The precision bearings were inserted directly into the frame. They are top quality aerospace grade bearings. It's incredible that even after 20 or 30 years, the Klein bikes you'll see have no play. Pedaling was identical. The bottom bracket had press-fitted bearings without threads. This wasn't originally from Klein, but he was the first major manufacturer to use it. In 1988, Palo Autocycles from California and Tom Ritchie had previously used this. Square chainstays with side entry dropouts are the guide they had here, which was also the poor part of Klein. I'll show you if you look under the bike. This is what would be called the anti-chain suck, Klein chains. A small piece of steel that was placed following the chain rings in case the chain got caught on the chain ring, so it wouldn't scratch the frame. This whole bike has some quality details and a love for doing things right, which is probably what makes the brand the most collectible and highest quality. It's reminding, the cameraman is reminding me because I've been talking so much. I feel like I've just started. This is the introduction. Now I'm going to explain to you, bike by bike.
No, it's okay. Oriol, what's happening is that we are learning a lot with you. YouTube videos exceeding 15 minutes tend to lose viewer engagement.
People who collect bikes aren't really YouTube people. We're more about steel and tangible things. But I understand that time on YouTube is gold, and I think it's time to wrap up.
If you enjoyed the video and found the information shared by this man to be amazing, you can show your support by liking it. We're going to ask you in the comments to leave your opinion about the bikes you've seen, if you own any of them or something like that. Write the year, model, and brand in a traditional format. And if you would like to see more videos like this. Also, because every time we see Oriol and collections like this, we'll catch him and make cool videos.
And if next year you feel like it, I invite you to start collecting bikes. Isn't it something too elitist? You can start with a small or simple bike. for 300 or 400 euros. Take care of it. And next year, all of us here to participate in the classic bike race.
That's it. Oriol, thanks a lot. See you. Bye.